We have made it through the offense. We've made it through the defense, every position. So check out those videos, either the individual clips that you see posted on the channel, or of course within the live shows. And we previewed every position on the field, but we're not going to leave out the special teams. It's 1/3 of the game. Now, I do have certain reasons why I don't believe special teams is as important as it once was, specifically in college football. Number one, you don't have as many kickoffs returned as you once did, um, because the ball's brought out to the 25-yard line. So that went into play, whatever it was, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And now that you can down the football wherever on the field and get it out to the 25-yard line, less kick returns there. I think the punters are better with hang time, and they also now you have a number of punters that obviously flush to the side and rugby kick it, which makes for less returns, balls kicked out of bounds. The punters are better, less returns in the punting game. Also, the value of blocking a punt is huge, but the risk is also enormous. So you see less teams. You see most of them just peel back and allow the punter to kick the ball. Therefore, again, they have time to give it a beat or two before they kick the ball. The coverage gets down, less punt returns. So a lot of reasons why there's less activity in the kicking game, punt returns, kickoff returns, but obviously still extremely vital. And when you need a 52-yarder at the gun, you want to have that guy that you send out there with confidence. And Oklahoma's had that the last few years, but not this year. And they do bring back one of the best punters in college football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, this is beating a dead horse here in the difference between these two regimes. But Lincoln Riley and his group, they did not put they really did not put an emphasis on special teams. It was worked maybe about an hour a week total from a practice perspective. And so Oklahoma Invincibles has really, made it a priority for this to be. I mean, to your point, I do agree with what you said. For the most part, I do say that the special teams for Oklahoma, particularly against Oklahoma State, was a big reason why they lost that game. They fumbled, I believe it was a kickoff that they fumbled, set up Oklahoma State. For touchdowns. So you've got that 14 points there. But be that as it may, I think Oklahoma's brought in Jay Nunez, who is an Oklahoma native, who was a special teams coordinator at Eastern Michigan over the last few years. So he is an off the field analyst role, but he kind of coordinates that special teams. Brandon Hall has done that previously for Troy and where he's been. So I think there's a lot more emphasis on that. As you mentioned, I think at this point this year, it kind of starts with Michael Turk from a punter perspective. One of the best punters in the country last year. I think just over 51 yards per punt a year ago. Kind of funny, he did not punt enough. He didn't have enough attempts to, I think, basically qualify himself for some of the awards and things like that, but was right there with the guy from San Diego State. I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head. I had it earlier.
He's the guy.
But
yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the best ones in the country. I think he gives Oklahoma a really good weapon to pin people deep or things like that. So 51.2 yards per kickoff. Not even quite 3 punts per game.
As opposed to Jason to 67 with Arizona State a couple of years earlier.
Right. So I think that's you've got that's solid right there. And then when you look at the as you mentioned, Gabe Burkich, was a huge weapon for Oklahoma over the last couple of years, and he's no longer here. And I think you've got a couple of guys that are really, it's not the sexiest position battle on the team, but you've got a couple of guys that are probably battling for that spot. Zach Schmidt is the guy who was the backup last year, who I think a lot of people came in thought that he would probably be the guy, and probably is. I would say he's the incumbent. But then you've also got a true freshman, Gavin Marshall, that has been I think he's the number fifth rated punter in the 2022. I'm sorry, fifth rated kicker in the 2022 cycle. So I think you like where Oklahoma is at. At that, and both look pretty good in the spring game. And I don't really have any concerns whatsoever with that. But you've got, as you mentioned here, as you see here, with has been really really good for Oklahoma over the last few years. And he's a guy that it's not easy to replace. And then but I think that will continue to be something that you look at. It's one of those things. Like, I think your field goal kicker is like a umpire in baseball or a referee in football, that you don't really even almost notice that he's there until he starts missing a lot of kicks, and then the sky is falling, so to speak. So we'll see. Like that, I would expect Marvin Mims to continue his role as a punt returner. In terms of a kickoff returner, I think you've got probably Eric Gray and Marvin Mims as your leaders in the clubhouse to return kicks. But a couple of other guys that you've got there that may enter into that equation. You've got you've got Billy Bowman, you've got Marcus Major, who may enter into that, and then a couple of new guys that you would not be surprised. I know from a coach's perspective, there's a little bit of anxiety, I think, putting true freshmen back there, whether it's a punt returner or whether it's a kickoff returner. But don't be surprised to see Gavin Sawchuk or Jaden Rowe, who's the other guy, very, very athletic on the defensive side of the ball. He's the other guy that's mentioned in the same vein as Sawchuk as being the two fastest players on the team. So wouldn't be surprised to see them in the mix. But I would see, maybe not necessarily, but maybe so, but maybe not necessarily the same efficiency from a field goal kicking perspective. But I think overall, I think this unit will be better than it's been before, without a doubt, just because of the more emphasis that's being put on that unit.